Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over Lotus Orb. I'm going to show you what it does, how to use it, and when to buy it. So Lotus Orb costs 3,850 gold, and that's relatively cheap if we look at all these big items, especially an item that you're going to be having in your inventory for the entire game once you do buy it. But this isn't really a carry or right-clicker kind of item. It's more of a support, general team-based item. So supports and offlaners and those kinds of heroes can usually buy Lotus Orb, and so because of that, 3,850 gold isn't exactly super cheap. So it's kind of right there in the middle, I would say. So then what does Lotus actually give us? Well, it gives us 10 armor, 6.5 health regen, 4 mana regen, and 250 mana. And I would say the main way that you can think about Lotus in terms of passive buffs that you get from the item is this is primarily an armor item. The health regen, the mana regen, and the mana, that's great. It's nice to have on, let's say, an offlaner, a strength hero that has a low mana pool, just needs that regen, but the armor is really the main thing that you want to be getting from the Lotus. It's the main reason that you buy it in terms of passive stats. But then obviously the main reason that we're buying this item is for this active component Echo Shell. It costs 175 mana, has a 15-second cooldown, and what it does is it applies a shield to the target unit for 5 seconds, which recasts most targeted spells back to the caster. So basically that means you can use it on yourself or your ally, and then it dissuades the enemy from casting spells on that hero. So you can place it on, let's say, your carry when they're sieging high ground, and then the enemy doesn't really want to use their stuns or slows on your carry because then those abilities are just going to come right back at them, and then let's say you can, counter initiate or initiate yourself and then kill them, and so they don't really want to do that, at least for 5 seconds, while they have the Lotus Orb shield on them, and that's great. It's good to preemptively use that to just make the enemy think twice about casting their abilities, but you don't always have to do it preemptively. You can actually wait till after the silence or the slows or other debuffs are applied to yourself or to your carry or to any other ally, and then you use it after that because it also has a basic dispel. So let's say a silence comes out on yourself and you don't have any other item to remove the silence, you can actually use Lotus Orb to remove silence from yourself, and then you can cast abilities, and then obviously any other abilities that are cast on you then get reflected back to the enemy. So it's kind of a dual purpose thing. You get this armor and some extra regen here, and then you can use this preemptively if you're sieging or something like that, if you're running into the fight, or you can wait to use it as a dispel to counter silences and other things like that. Then to show you how Lotus Orb actually works, I decided to pick Centaur here, and Centaur's a pretty good Lotus Orb buyer in general, and I'll explain more about that in a minute, but basically, all you do is you press the item when it's in your inventory. You can see it has a cast range there. It's a pretty decent cast range, allowing supports that like to buy to sit in the back and still cast it on allies without being in range of a lot of other spells, and you can cast it on your ally, or you can just click it on yourself, or even double-click it to cast it on yourself. You can see this bubble then appears, and you get this buff over your name, and then after 5 seconds, it goes away. So basically, whenever you have this bubble active, the enemy knows if they cast a spell on you, like Axe's W here, then it will just be reflected back to them. So you can see you still get affected by those spells, it's just that the enemy is also affected. Then you can actually use the active of Lotus to dispel. So something like Axe's W also gets dispelled by using Lotus. So you can use it preemptively to apply it back to them, or use it afterwards to remove the slow or the stun or anything like that, or the silence, to just make it so that you aren't affected by those debuffs anymore. So you can either, like I said, wait and hold it, or use it preemptively. And the other thing to notice as well is that it's really only single target spells, so acts as a Q, which is AoE. And so even if we have Lotus Orb active here on the Centaur, you can still be affected by Berserker's Call from the axe. So it's one of those things that it doesn't reflect every single spell in Dota. It's just really those single target spells that are just clickable on the enemy heroes or on the heroes that are reflected back to them. And then what types of heroes like to buy Lotus Orb? Well, it's mainly a support or offlaner item. That's why I picked Centaur, a hero that really likes Lotus because really benefits from that armor. A lot of strength heroes benefit from armor items. And then also Centaur has a huge mana deficiency problem. Like the mana pool on this hero is very small. So having the extra 250 mana plus the mana regen is also great. Plus, a lot of these initiators like to have Lotus because they can place Lotus on themselves, then jump in, or wait till after they jump in to dispel things once stuff's cast on them. It's just great to have on a lot of offlaners or initiators. Plus, supports really like it because it makes them tankier. It gives them a dispel that sometimes they don't get. Yeah, sure, they could buy Yules and stuff like that, but maybe they want the Lotus because there's a lot of right clicks and they want to have extra armor just to be a little bit tankier, stuff like that. Plus, they can use it not just on themselves, but they can use it as kind of a team item for their allies, for their carry when they're sieging high ground and things like that. And so for the most part, you're not really thinking about Lotus in a selfish way about what you want or need as a hero. It's more about a team-based item and really what matchups you're fighting into, because if the enemy doesn't have any single target spells or slows or debuffs that you want to remove, then it's not really a great game for Lotus, whereas if they have something like a Doom, that can be great to reflect Doom back at the Doom and make him useless after he uses his ability, or maybe something like a Skywrath Mage or a Silencer or a Venomancer. You really want to dispel a lot of these heroes' spells, and so it can be really good in those specific matchups against those heroes, or something even like Shadow Shaman has 2 lockdowns that are single target. And so if a Lotus Orb is on yourself or your ally, the Shadow Shaman really can't lock that hero down because they're just going to lock down themselves as well. And so it really dissuades the Shadow Shaman from using spells on you or your ally. And so it's really all about matchups in terms of when you're buying Lotus Orb. And then lastly, how and when do we build this item? Well, it's made from Perseverance, which is actually made from Ring of Health and Voidstone, and Plate Mail, Energy Booster, and then rounding it out with a recipe, 250 gold recipe, not a huge recipe overall. So it's mainly these 3 items, and you're probably buying Plate Mail first just because it's so good to have that extra armor on an offlaner or on a support in general, just a casual Plate Mail with 10 armor before you're finishing out the full Lotus. Sure, you could go for one of the items from Perseverance or even the full Perseverance to get extra regen if you feel like you really need it, but you're probably not buying that early when you're building this item because this isn't really an early game item. It's not like a first or second item. It's usually a third, fourth, fifth kind of later game item after you already have some of the core items that you're buying, and then you're deciding later on, I don't really need anything else. You know, I don't need this blink. I don't need, you know, whatever it is, blade mail. I don't need those specific items that I have to have for this game. And now I'm going for more luxury items, and Lotus is really good in this game. So I'm getting that plate mail first, rounding it out with Perseverance, and then finishing it with Energy Booster and the Lotus Orb recipe. And so yeah, overall, you're not really buying this item early. You're buying it later as a luxury item on supports, offlaners, no matter what. There aren't really any heroes in the game they're going to buy this first or second. You could go for it fairly early in very specific matchups on very specific heroes as like a second item, just to kind of make it really surprising for the enemy. Oh wow, they already have a Lotus, but that's very, very rare. For the most part, it really is a late game luxury item, and it actually is kind of cheap for a late game item. And if it's really good in that game, it can feel super annoying to the enemy when you have a Lotus Orb, because it just disrupts a lot of what they want to do. And that, everyone, is Lotus Orb. I hope this helped you better understand the item and when to buy it. As always, guys, if you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.